Hey, Dylan.
Hey, Matt.
This is gonna be shocking to people, but we're doing a second Christmas album, and I like this one a little bit more than that Jimmy Fallon one that we did earlier.
They were honestly like neck and neck for me.
Oh, dear Lord. But honestly, behind the scenes, Ben Folds is probably one of my favorite musicians, so I was very excited.
I know you are super into Ben Folds. I am more aware of Ben Folds than I am of like listening to Ben Folds.
This is not a good example of Ben Folds, and I like this album a lot, but like this is very well. I'm gonna read you some quotes from an article that I found about this, but this is very cheap. This was like a cheap album done very quickly on the fly. Ben Folds stuff is usually much more like lots of different instruments and like kind of dancing with a lot of different musical genres.
Which I would honestly say we do see in the back half of the album.
Yes.
A little bit.
So this album, Sleigher, which great name.
Very much so.
This was part of a deal he made with a record label where he was looking to get a budget for an album of original music that came out last year in 2023. And he basically was like, hey, I could do that album for this much, or if you give me this much, I'll put out a Christmas covers album the following year, so you'll get 2 albums for your investment. And then the story, essentially, as he told Variety, was that the original intent was that he wanted to be kind of lazy and mostly covers, but then he slowly became inspired to write more and more songs. He said it was fun to write something almost as if it was an assignment, and that's what this was. I always kind of like something that'll make me have to write. And I felt like I'd become a really good curator of just like really neat Christmas songs, but I guess I was ignorant. I was surprised not to be able to find as many songs to cover as I thought I would want to do. And there's only 3 covers out of these 10 tracks. Right. And I'll talk about the covers when we get to them because they are kind of interesting. But I wanted to read this quote about the originals. And he said, as I began to write, I realized how much Christmas just frames everybody's year. It doesn't matter if you're into Christmas or not. It definitely comes down to where am I this year? Yep. Christmas really frames the year. So you're back in it and you really know where you are because all the other variables have been eliminated. It's the same songs on the radio. It's the same ads on TV. It's familiar weather and colors, but it's also like, oh, so-and-so's not here anymore, or so-and-so got divorced, or my nephew, he was just riding a bike around and now he's got a job and he's lost some of his hair. And you really start to frame your life Christmas by Christmas. So I found it very suddenly super easy for me to start writing songs for it. I would write one and then suddenly I was writing another and another and another. And I feel like that's the most beautiful way that I've really never heard anyone explain it before. But like,
no, I love that. And I'm stealing that.
Yeah. Like Christmas really is like the marker in which you compare year to year to year.
Yeah, it's the frame.
Yeah. So it starts off with a nice little instrumental called The Little Drummer Borella.
Love it. When I first heard this, the very beginning track of just the piano playing, this is the shit I love. I am such a sucker for jazz piano, specifically like covers of songs. And what's great is at least like 70% of this album is this and him singing. Like most of the beginning tracks, I would say at least up to the Christmas song cover is basically a piano and Ben Folds and a guest at one point.
Yeah, and it's really good. I don't have a lot to say about the instrumental beyond it's very nice, but we get into Sleepwalking with Christmas, and the love and the note that I wrote was, I just love how laid back and cozy this is. I love the harmonica on it. Like I just love how sweet and somber it is.
Now I have a slight pushback. Just a slight one. As somebody who's not a fan of Ben Folds, and I don't say that as somebody who actively dislikes Ben Folds.
Not anti-Ben Folds, just not
it's more just like, sure, he's there, like he exists. I don't have a lot of experience with his music. I think across this album, the instrumentation, the composing, the songs, especially the originals, are fantastic songs. I think Ben Folds is a horrendous singer sometimes.
Oh man, see, and
I do not like his voice.
And I really, really, really like his voice. Ben Folds, I would also say, if you ever get a chance, and I'll send you some videos.
Yes.
He would do these elaborate live shows.
Yeah.
Like obviously Ben Folds 5 was its own thing.
Yeah.
But when Ben Folds 5 broke up, he would do these tours, and he is someone who's like all about pushing and experimentation. So like the first tour was just him and a piano. But then he started doing these tours where like he would do like the chat roulette tour, where like for a portion of the show he would just broadcast chat roulette on a screen and improvise songs about the people who he's being matched with on chat roulette. That stopped when he was starting to have too many penises show up on a giant jumbo screen in front of an audience.
I will say, I love what you're saying here.
Yeah, it doesn't defend his singing.
Change the fact. I was like, but I think we're at the same point where I like the presentation. I just think his
what I'll say with Ben
lacking.
Folds. I think that Ben Folds, and I think he is a better singer than the person I'm about to name, right?
Yeah.
But I think that Ben Folds for the 90s generation is a lot of what Bob Dylan was to the 60s generation, who was such an incredible singer-songwriter, like was so good at lyrics and like plays on words. We're going to talk about a song that I literally think is one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard lyrically, but maybe his voice wasn't perfectly there. What I love about Ben Folds is, as a person who's a fairly mediocre singer, Ben Folds is one of those artists that I feel like I can sing along with his music and not feel like I'm pushing myself. And the song that I think I like his voice the most on is actually the next track. Me and Maurice. I literally wrote my notes. I love Ben Folds' voice so much, and this is a great example of why. And I think it's because he has this very calm timbre. Like, he's not someone who like pushes himself to high notes or anything like that. He plays in this middle field where his voice is almost another instrument, in the sense of like his voice is almost the bass to go along with the piano. Like it's like I know I was just complaining about it, but it's almost like it's not supposed to be. Yeah, he's not Adele. It's not supposed to be this person with an incredible vocal range. Like there's heart in it. Listen, let's talk about, I'm always going to jump back and forth between it because it's the two new Christmas albums that we reviewed this year. There are better singers on the Jimmy Fallon album. Oh, for sure. That being said, that is objectively a worse album than this. It's not like, even up for 100%. Debate. So I really, again, I feel like I always like have to provide caveats to what I'm saying, because it does sound like I'm coming off as a hater. I'm not. I think this is a fucking great record. I added most of these songs to my playlist. Same. When we are heading to see Beauty and the Beast later, I'm going to listen to this album like on the way. It's a great album. It's just, it's more like I need something to talk about, and that's the thing that stuck out to me. That's fair. Just the weaker vocals. Yeah. To which is not the case on all of Ben Folds' records. Yeah. I'm going to send you a playlist of my favorite Ben Folds songs. Please do. I was listening to that album that did come out last year while we've been sitting here talking, and I clicked on one of what I believe is one of the singles, Exhausting Lover. Yeah. Oh, Exhausting Lover is unbelievable. And like, I'm listening through it and I'm like, yeah, like this fucking smacks. So I don't want, again, when I say like his vocals are a little weaker, I think it's because it's just him and a piano. It's kind of like zoned in on that. It's not surrounded by his production that he usually does. Yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, in New Jersey...
So, Marissa, what talking points do you want to hit on in this week's episode?
Well, Jackie, let's talk about how the film addresses the patriarchy. Ooh, and representation of marginalized people. Ooh, and even philosophical ramifications of good versus evil in horror.
We can point out the triangle boobs, Talk about the blood splatter and, the practical effects. And also the male gaze.
My gaze at the males.
Hi-yo! From feminism to fangirling, the Jersey Ghouls cover all the bases of horror from a woman's perspective.
New episodes are uploaded every other Sunday.
Just search Jersey Ghouls to find us on social media and your favorite podcasting app.
I think that the next track that we have, Christmas Time Rhyme, this is the one that most feels like a Ben Folds 5 era song to me, specifically with the drumming beat.
Christmas morning.
Yeah.
Because like Ben Folds 5, their whole thing, he used to call them punk rock for punk rock for wussies is what he referred to them as, was that it was this like jazzy sounding music that also had a very like anarchistic like lyrical content, and Christmas Time Rhyme kind of falls in to that a little bit. It's not I will say it was the first of the originals that I didn't put on my Christmas list, like on my playlist. Not that I disliked it.
I love this. Oh, it's so good.
But then we get another really nice, soothing instrumental interlude with the Waiting for Snow song. That's just like, he's such a good piano player. But the stuff that I really want to talk about is the next track.
Yeah.
We Could Have This, featuring Lindsay Kraft. And when I say that these are some of the prettiest lyrics I have heard in a long ass time, this opening line of, I never cared for the snow, but gosh, I love the snow now that we're both in it. It's hard to remember who I was before I knew that you existed. That is such a fucking pretty and sweet lyric. And that falls right into what he was talking about framing things around Christmas, because the whole point is like, by this time next year, this could be our new Christmas tradition. Like, it's like looking at a new relationship through the lens of like next Christmas. Like, will we still be here next Christmas? Which I just think is such a cool concept. And Lindsay Kraft's voice just sounds perfect. Like,
absolutely incredible. Yeah.
They became friends. She was the opener for him on a flight. And this was, again, great person to see live. Ben Folds did a tour, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, called the Paper Airplane Tour. And what it was that he showed up with no set list in mind, and every audience member got pieces of paper and pens, and they would write song suggestions on and fly paper airplanes onto the stage, and he would just pick up random paper airplanes and play whatever song was on that. Like, that's like why people love Ben Folds, is he's that type of person. Yeah. There's a great cover of Such Great Heights that he did by the Postal Service, where the whole point was that they didn't use traditional instruments. They found like trash and utilized trash to be like drum and bass instruments by like playing it in certain ways.
Stomp.
Yeah, like he's just always like pushing himself creatively, and I like that. Now we get into the covers, and I gotta say, I think the covers are the weak part of this album a little bit.
So up to this point, like, honestly, this is a very traditional cover of the Christmas song. I feel like we don't have to spend too much time on it.
Yeah, I wrote not my favorite version, not my least favorite version.
Not my least, it's a fine, but I would say that at least up to this point, most of these songs have been Ben Folds with a piano, and that's pretty much it. Like, some of the songs have drums on them and things like that, but it's been very toned down.
Yeah.
But like, we get to The Bell That Couldn't Jingle is also toned down, but that Xmas I song. I am AI, I am AI, I am AI, I am AI.
In the silence
And I'm like, this doesn't even sound like it should be on the same record.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that. So I want to read the quote that I had about his covers.
Yeah.
He said, I did eventually find some covers that I like. The album ends with the Miller Brothers' You Don't Have to Be Santa Claus, which is basically a Depression-era sentiment of why don't you just help people all year long, open your hearts all the rest of the year, and help a fellow out. And I really like that message. I also found a Burt Bacharach, Herb Albert cover for the record, The Bell That Couldn't Jingle, which I hadn't heard before. Burt Bacharach could just shit stuff like this out, and it was always just superior every single time. But then
you know what my experience with Burt Bacharach is?
What?
It's just that scene in Austin Powers
Of course
where he
it
goes,
is.
ladies and gentlemen, Burt Bacharach.
But he says, and then chestnuts on roasting on an open fire. I felt like I needed to do the most popular Christmas song of all time and just do it in a way that was a challenge to me, which was fully live with no bass or anything else. So like this version of Christmas song, I think is literally like a single take live performance. No like studio overlays or anything. I think he just sat down and knocked it out. The funny thing, Dylan, just to bounce back for a second with Burt Bacharach, is I'm pretty sure Burt Bacharach has written massive songs that you just had no clue were written by Burt Bacharach.
100%.
Then Santa said Jack Frost will bring my Christmas gift to you.
So while we dive in to this Burt Bacharach song, I just want to take a quick look at what some of the... All right, so Burt Bacharach wrote 52 U.S. top 40 hits, including Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, They Long to Be Close to You for the Carpenters, That's What Friends Are For Dionne Warwick, and a couple others. But yeah, he's definitely written songs, but I don't think he was ever as famous by himself, Burt Bacharach.
Oh yeah,
and
that's the thing is like, it's the name specifically.
Oh yeah,
like you say Burt Bacharach,
that's what you're going to.
That's what goes into my head.
So, The Bell That Couldn't
Ladies
Jingle.
and gentlemen, Quincy Jones.
Yeah,
I love these fucking bits. It's so good.
The Bell That Couldn't Jingle. This is the Burt Bacharach cover. I wrote, this is also fine, but I legit think that the covers are my least favorite parts on the album so far.
Yeah, easily.
And then we get to Xmas AI, and this is something that is classic Ben Folds. And I said, I really like the concept of this song more than I like the final result.
Song itself.
Yeah. I like the idea of like, hey, let's make a joke about AI where we're going to say that this song was written by ChatGPT and it's like all over the place. But this is the biggest outlier of the entire album.
Yes.
It's the weakest track, but my God, did I love this closing track of You Don't Have to Be Santa Claus.
You don't have to be a Santa Claus.
And I wrote, I love this closing track, and I want to hear the original. It's easily my favorite of the three covers.
Yeah.
And he does, I know the Miller Brothers, or the Mill Brothers, enough to know that he is doing it in their style. Like, they were like I want to say a quartet of singers.
Yeah.
And he's doing that quartet style singing. So, like, I think this is like one where I'm like, this is like an all year round listen for me now.
Oh, yeah.
This song specifically. But this album, Dylan, I'm going to say this, and again, the bar isn't particularly high. This was my favorite new content.
Of the two Christmas albums
Of all of the 2004 new content, this was I think this was my favorite thing that we found in 2024.
Let me think.
It's this or Hot Frosty or the Abbott Elementary episodes. So I think I'm going with this one.
I think this is up there. I think this one wins. God, we were so
excited in September, and then
we
did not get there.
Especially compared to 2023.
Oh, 2023, we were grasping at straws to get
dry.
Yeah, it was bad.
And I'm trying to decide which one I prefer. Do I prefer it being dry, or do I prefer getting really excited and then feeling really meh?
Dylan, I'll tell you what I prefer. I prefer home runs. I prefer good content.
That wasn't one of the options. It really does take me back to what I was saying a couple weeks ago with Dear Santa, is like the mediocrity of these releases. Not this release, but of the 2024 releases. Puts a shine on some of my favorite content. that I've been consumed that I consumed over the course of the season.
Someone had messaged me when I posted that I was watching Red One, which we did last week, and they were like, "Is it any good?" And I was like, "It's a film. Like that's
it's
like
fine.
all like it's." But I was like, if you're looking for new content, I was like, honestly, the 3 best releases of the last 5 years, in my opinion, and I'm curious if you agree with the 3 that I'm about to say.
Okay.
But I said it's Spirited.
Yep.
It's Let It Snow, and it's Claws. Like, those to me are the 3 best pieces of new Christmas movie content that we've gotten.
That.
Like, but we'll see. Whatever. But
yeah,
Dylan, we got one more thing we got to watch for next week. One more. So we'll be back with 2 episodes of a TV show. So stay tuned, everybody.
Yes. Guys, have a fantastic day and keep enjoying Christmas 365 days a year.
Now we won't stop till the big ball drops on New Year's. Happy holiday, have a great holiday, have a merry happy holiday.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.